What's up and welcome to My Point of View. I am your fat and opinionated host, and as all of you all should already know by now, the trans terrorist Audrey Hale, who carried out a targeted attack on Christians at a Christian school in Nashville, Tennessee, left behind a manifesto detailing why they chose to do this. Not only did they leave behind a manifesto, they left behind other evidence. They left behind other writings. In fact, Audrey Hale herself, not himself, herself, actually said herself in text messages to a friend moments before carrying out this attack that they left behind plenty of evidence to show as to why they did this. They even said that one day it would all make sense. Now, law enforcement released that information yesterday. They told us that they were reviewing body cam and surveillance footage and that they would release that footage, and they did. YouTube has a double standard. They allow some people to show some things and they don't allow other people to show some things. So I'm not allowed to show the body cam footage here on YouTube. I have it posted on my Twitter. Other YouTubers are allowed to do so. Why? I don't know. Maybe because YouTube is scared that I actually tell the truth about these situations in my videos. Anyways, so they kept with that promise to release the body cam footage. But they were also supposed to release the manifesto. They said they were looking through it. But now, they're reluctant to release it. Why? Because the same trans activists, the same organizations that radicalized Audrey Hale, that radicalized her to the point that she felt like she had to do what she did yesterday. Now they're pressuring the police department not to release the manifesto because they already know what's in the manifesto because it's their talking points. So they're pressuring law enforcement not to release it. That is what's happening, ladies and gentlemen. And the mainstream media is right there with them helping, as they always do, because the mainstream media helps them indoctrinate these young people. The mainstream media helps them spread their mental illness far and wide. And now they're trying to block the truth from coming out because they know the truth will reveal too much. They claim they're scared that if this manifesto is released, that it may lead to bad things happening to their community. And I don't necessarily disagree with that part. We've reached this point, this boiling point in our country, and I talk about it all the time. I've been talking about it for over a year on my various channels, that we are reaching this critical point in our country where things are far too divided. But they're trying to block this information from coming out. And we know why. We know exactly why. But I find it very hypocritical. Because these same people sit online every day. These same people who work for these organizations, these same people who are part of these movements, these same people who tell you fake news on your televisions. They have no problem pushing division when it fits their agenda. They have no problem attacking Christians. They have no problem fear-mongering. They have no problem turning people against other people, but when it comes to this protected class, oh boy, we can't let them know the truth about this manifesto. Right? Right? You all see it take place every day. Make no mistake about it. These organizations who have been preaching all of this goofy stuff and the mainstream media, they're responsible, and these movements, these activists, they're responsible for what happened yesterday. They have blood on their hands. Blood on their hands. They have no problem fueling hatred when it's against a certain group, and then they clutch their pearls and tuck their tail when the shoe's on the other foot. Now, I've made it clear in my videos that what Audrey Hale did isn't a 100% reflection of the entire community that Audrey Hale supposedly belonged to. But what Audrey Hale did is a 100% reflection of how these activists have been acting and the points that they've been trying to get across lately. In every community, you have your activists. In every community, you have your fringe groups. In every community, you have your extremists, if you will, right? In every group, it seems like. And I have just as much of an issue with extremists over here as I do with extremists over there. People get radicalized way too quickly in this country nowadays. But there's no covering up the fact that this community has allowed the activists to be their loudest speaking voices. And these activists are pushing some very wild stuff. So while the mainstream media and these activists work hard to make sure that we don't get to read this manifesto, they want to make sure that you don't know the motive when the motive is already out there. This 100% had something to do with this person's identity. This 100% had something to do with recent laws and bills that were being passed, and this 100% was a targeted attack on Christians. But these same people who clutch their pearls and we're worried about violence, we don't want violence. Guess what they're doing as we speak? They're planning something called, I don't even know if I can say it on YouTube, but they're planning a special day for April 1st where they claim they're going to seek vengeance. Earlier today, Twitter tried to suspend my account. Not because I shared anything fake, not because I attacked anyone, because I simply reshared a flyer for an event that trans activists were planning on April 1st. This flyer basically let their plans be known, that they were seeking vengeance. They were out to hurt people. Twitter tried to suspend my account and they took down that post. They don't want you all to know the truth about what's going on out here. Now, like I said, everyone in this community is not like this. In fact, I believe there is a big difference between what I will call real trans people, like people who actually suffer from gender dysphoria, and whatever the hell we're dealing with nowadays. Trans people have existed for a while. A long time, before I was born. Drag queens, they've been here forever. Drag queens have been around for hundreds of years. It wasn't until like the last 5 years that they started trying to perform for little kids. It wasn't until the last few years that this trans issue became a problem because they started going after kids. And I'm telling you, a lot of these people that you see, they're not even people who actually suffer from gender dysphoria. They are socially awkward people who are looking for attention. They're looking for a place to fit in. Back in the day, when I was in high school, we had emos and goths. They no longer exist because they're all trans now. It's the new it thing. And that's what these people are following up with. And they're coming into these communities and they're destroying them. Honestly, I don't think people understand that there are so many people who identify as trans or they're LGBTQ plus or whatever they want to be, that they don't go along with this stuff. A lot of this stuff is being pushed by outside forces. I'm telling you all. And it's being spread by these algorithms purposely. It runs deep. Hell, half of these trans people aren't even gay. They're literally straight dudes with either mental illnesses or fetishes that put on dresses because it gets them off. And because that's the only way they get attention. That's why most of them, actual dudes who claim they're women, identify as lesbians. It's wild, y'all. It's wild, but I have educated myself on this topic very thoroughly. And one of my favorite hobbies is just studying how we operate as a society. Looking at these cultural movements, looking at how, these ideas and ideologies spread so quickly throughout our society, especially with the use of the internet. I'm telling you all that I could talk about this topic for a long time. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I'm very knowledgeable about this topic. And it runs way deeper than people could ever imagine. Could ever possibly imagine. You wouldn't even believe half of the stuff that's going on right now. And you wouldn't believe half of the people who are pushing it. So I think we've reached a point where people in the trans community, people in the LGBT community, they need to start speaking out about these radical activists who are going absolutely insane and demanding a lot of wild stuff. But make no mistake about it. I said it on Twitter, I'll say it here. Yesterday was about sending a message. That message is that if you do not allow them to have access to your kids, if you do not allow them, these activists, to have access to your kids, if you do not allow them to indoctrinate your kids, if you don't allow them to show your kids freaking weird stuff in school, if you don't allow them to perform drag shows and twerk naked in front of your kids at the public library, then they're going to try to take your kids out. That's how far these radical freaking weirdos have gone. And in their mind, they believe they're doing something right. Because the mainstream media has convinced them that the world is out to get them. The world is out to erase them. The world is out to harm them. When in reality, no one cares about what these people do as long as they leave kids alone. Like I said, these people have existed long before I was here. Long before you were here. This didn't become a big societal issue until the last few years. Because within the last few years, these communities have been hijacked by activists, much like all other communities, it seems like, who are only pushing for the most extreme. They're only pushing for the most extreme. And what happens when you have someone pushing for extremes? You get extreme responses. And then before you know it, both sides are clashing and things have just spiraled out of control. And I don't want that to happen. But, sometimes it just feels like I'm talking to a wall, which I kind of am. When I think about it, there's just a wall right here. No one's here. But hey, I can't shape society. I can't change society. But I could damn sure point out some of the things that are happening in today's society. And if you want to point out anything else, feel free to do so down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, ring that notification bell. And as always, remain opinionated.